Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Financial Survival Network is presented to you by Regal Assets. Buy and sell physical gold and silver through your existing retirement plan, 100% tax-free with Regal Assets. If you want to include physical gold or silver in your existing IRA or old 401k, request your free investment kit, which was recently featured in the Forbes and Smart Money Wall Street Journal magazines. Call toll-free 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620, or visit regalassets.com. Things are very uncertain. Gold prices, metals prices all over the place, which is why you need to prepare. Go to preparewise.com, put LUTZ in the discount code. They have a great deal for you. Stock up on that food now while you still can. And speaking of stocking up, we've got Nick Barischeff on the line, and we're going to be talking about what's going on with gold and silver prices, and is it time to be stocking up on them as well? Hey, Nick, welcome back to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com.
My pleasure, Kerry. It's good to be here.
Hey, great to have you. And you've been in the precious metals markets for so long now. I mean, does anything surprise you any longer?
Well, not really. It's just been a continuation and growing story all along. It's hard to follow kind of on a day-to-day basis, but when you're looking at the bigger picture, you've simply got a direct correlation between the price of gold and the U.S. debt and the monetary conditions. So as you print more money, the price of gold will keep rising. So it's fairly simple.
Seems axiomatic, but we're in this silly season called the U.S. presidential election season, and the government, the financial powers seem to be doing everything they can to keep the status quo, to keep the current occupant in there. Do you think that's having a distortive effect on the market?
Well, likely. That's kind of the usual thing to keep the stock markets up, keep the statistics looking good, keep the gold price down, ahead of the election. I mean, the jobs report was one example. I don't think anybody believes that the unemployment rate fell suddenly to 7.8% without any kind of reasons why it would have done so.
Yeah,
there's a lot of criticism there, but that's the kind of an example that you would see ahead of an election.
There's nothing new there. I mean, this is what happens. This is what happens every 4 years, that the ruling party tries to put their best foot forward. What's different, I think, this time is that the true underlying economic situation, not just in the U.S. but around the world, is really desperate, isn't it?
Well, that's right. And recently the IMF, downgraded more or less like the entire global economy. So that's indicative of what's in store. We get a bit of a distortion because the U.S. is sort of the worst house, the best house in a bad neighborhood. So
yeah, or the best-looking horse in the glue factory.
Money floods into the U.S. So.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so and what amazes me is you walk down the street in any city in the U.S., regardless where, and nobody understands what's going on here. They are clueless. They don't understand the threat, and if you're Joe Average, it's real difficult to wake up and say, "Hey, things are really bad, and I've got to change the way I'm doing things." And it's real difficult for you to take action and for you to really put together a plan. And I know that's something that you, Nick, have given a lot of thought to. How do you wake these people up, and what should Joe Average, Joe Sixpack, be doing?
Well, it depends on the degree of your wealth, but typically you start with with saving up silver coins. That's the lowest price, easiest things to get into. And by silver coins, I mean non-numismatics like gold, gold, gold or silver eagles and maple leafs. They have very low premiums. So that's the first thing to do. If you're wealthier, then it's not feasible to hold any kind of, or it's not feasible, but it's not safe or wise to hold any significant amounts of gold directly. So, you need to buy bullion, make sure you get title to it, make sure it's in allocated storage with credible custodian.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and so you need to be getting. If you don't have a lot of funds, then you should be buying silver. A few dimes a week, a couple of rolls a month, whatever you can afford to do.
Right.
And it's getting harder and harder for people to make ends meet. But look,
and there is in terms of IRAs and CEOs, we're working with a trust company in Nevada that has collective investment funds, collective trust funds, and qualify for IRAs and KIOs, and they're buying units in our fund and the bars and so on. So people with IRAs and KIOs can get gold that way.
Yeah, so there are alternatives out there, and a lot of people, the only savings that you have left is what's left in your IRA, and that's really where it's at. You have to look at every possible way, and it's a time to be saving money and putting it into these metals, because it seems obvious that the reign of fiat currency is coming. I wouldn't say coming to an end, but it certainly is coming to a transformation or an inflection point, right?
That's the hard part to understand for most people, because the history of money and so on and so forth, and what money is not taught in any of the schools. So, if the history of money, then it becomes fairly clear, because this has happened many times before. So if you'd studied that, you'd see that this is just a repeat of the same old thing that's happened again and again and again. In this case, it's much worse because it's happening on a global basis, because this is the first time ever that you have a fiat currency as the world's reserve currency.
Yeah, isn't that amazing that we're in this situation? And Milton Friedman wrote a book about this about 30 years ago called Money Mayhem.
That's right.
And he was kind of the brains behind the whole thing. He advised Nixon to do this under the mistaken belief that somehow there would be a currency board that would restrict the growth of the money supply to around 2% a year, which is actually the increase in population. And yet, I think it was kind of naive on his part to think that discipline could be imposed on human beings that are always looking for outs and always looking for ways to get around things.
Oh, that's right. It's throughout history. No king, emperor, president, prime minister, whatever, has ever been in a position to restrain himself from printing money if he was given a printing press, and that's what they've done throughout history. And now the same thing has happened. In terms of interventions during economic conditions, that was always meant to be like short-term interventions, not continuous, never-ending money printing, like Ben Bernanke essentially announced a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, pretty amazing that we never learn from history, and that these things just keep happening over and over and over again. And
well, it's just like I say, it's we never learn from it because we're not taught it. Not in high school, not in university. There are no history courses on money.
That's
Ludwig
the truth.
von Mises Institute, which is not known other than in the gold community, is the only thing that teaches you about money.
Yep. I know, and especially if you go to Mises.org and you listen to Murray Rothbard's lectures, on monetary history. They're fascinating economic history because...
Well, that's a great site for people that are interested to really understand, is to go to the Von Mises site, because there's an enormous amount of articles, materials, videos, and so on that would help people in terms of their understanding of what's actually going on now.
Yeah, it's really a fabulous site. I can't recommend it enough. I remember when I stumbled upon it one day, I said, wow, where has this been hiding? Because it was just, I had been into Mises since I'm 20 years old, so 35 years, and all of a sudden, there it is, man, and I couldn't believe that how good it was, and the proof of people looking for answers is that the traffic to the site keeps going up and up, and the downloads and everything else, and I think we all owe them kind of a debt of gratitude. So
the other major site people should visit to get a true picture of what's going on is John Williams' shadowstats.com, because he adjusts the official statistics to reality, and then you get a much better picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
From the point of view of unemployment, GDP, inflation, etc.
Yeah.
And all he's doing is using the older methodologies that were in place like pre-1990 and applying them. So he's not reinventing the wheel. He's just doing it the way they've just massaged the methods they use to do this, so that the answer comes out right. But if you apply those old methodology, you get an entirely different picture.
Yep, that is correct, and we're big fans of that site. And if you want to know what the real rate of inflation is, if you can take it, then go there and have a look, because it's rather shocking, and the real rate of unemployment as well. So,
right. And John's got a good, very extensive report on I think it's called The Coming Hyperinflation.
Right. Yes.
So that's a must read for everybody, because I think he's dead right. This is what's coming.
Yeah. Exactly. Totally spot on there. I mean, it's really I don't see any way out of it. We're past the point now where anything where we can do anything. It's just I just don't see what the powers that be can do anything to save this system, because it's just beyond hope.
Yeah, the choices are fairly simple. You can grow your way out of it, which is not happening. You can tax your way out of it, but I think we've reached the top of the tax tolerance. You can cut back and bring in austerity measures. But we see what's happening in places like Spain, where they're doing austerity and taxation to try and get out of their debt problems, and all it's causing is that the GDP is going down and the unemployment rate is going up.
Exactly.
So the only thing left is simply print the money.
Yeah, which we're doing a lot of.
And that's what's going to happen. It's happening all over the world. It's not just the United States. It's essentially all the governments are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And the result of that is simply all the currencies are devaluing against gold and silver.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And a lot of people say, wow, they introduced QE3 to infinity, and really they introduced it all over the world, from China. Every central bank in the world, like you said, is doing it, and yet the price of gold and silver haven't gone up. What's with that?
Well, the thing is that what the problem is the gold price is set in the paper markets at COMEX, and so you have a lot of buying and selling in paper by people that don't have any gold. So it's a bit of a distorted market. Whether it's conspiracy or just financial opportunism, we'll never know. But
take your pick.
That really is what happens, and at some point in time, you're going to get a divergence between the physical gold price and the paper gold price.
No doubt, and I think that time is coming sooner rather than later, because the tail can only wag the dog for so long, and then
That's right.
you've got to see a breakout take place. And
well, we've had examples of that happen. For example, in 1998, there was concerns that there may be shortages of palladium, and you need palladium as well as platinum for catalytic converters.
right.
So Ford Motor Company did a deal for physical palladium. They bought $1 billion of physical palladium at twice the prevailing spot price.
Yeah.
So that's what happens, because paper palladium doesn't make for good catalytic converters.
Yeah, like how do you get anti-pollution, or pollution control with sticking a paper palladium ounce in your catalytic converter? It can't be done.
Right. But there's been numerous examples where you've got these divergences from the paper markets to the physical.
Yeah, no doubt, and that's what we're going to see big time here, because the fact is that what they can do, if they don't have the metal on hand and people hold for delivery on the exchanges, they can settle these things in SLV and shares of SLV and GLD. So they could settle the paper with more paper. And
then they can also settle just in cash. Then those are all arbitrary rules that can be imposed. But the COMEX isn't the place where you're going to buy physical bullion in quantity. That's not the place to do it. The physical bullion is traded in London at the London Bullion Marketing Association. So that the physical market is a different market than the COMEX market. I look at the COMEX markets as just people betting on the future price of gold. And, if you're betting on a futures price, you don't need any of the actual metal. You just have to be good if you lose the bet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of amazing that a market that claims to be a precious metals market really is the furthest thing from it. So I guess people really need to be looking at the physical, like you said, and if they're well off, then they have to go to a custodian-based type operation, which is what you've been doing for many years at the Bullion Management Group, right?
That's right, and that's where a variety of things come into place, like the bars that are purchased. Once you're purchasing large bullion bars, they need to be London Good Delivery bars, because the London Bullion Marketing Association sets the specifications, does the audits on the refiners, and the carriers and the vaults and everything, because the bullion needs to stay in what they call the chain of integrity to ensure that it stays as bullion to specs it is, and doesn't become gold-plated tungsten bars. So
right.
there's all kinds of rules in place, by the association to ensure the purity of the bullion. And as a result, if bullion is held in LBMA member vaults, you have instant liquidity. You don't have to reassay it, recheck it, go through any paperwork, and so on. So that's kind of, once you get into large quantities of bullion, that's how it needs to be done.
I see. Interesting. So people want to find out more about you, Nick, and your group. Where should they go?
Well, if they go to bmgbullion.com, we've now split our original site into two sections. One is for the funds, and one is for the bars. So we do both. The bars are for high net worth investors and institutions that can buy what I call the larger investment grade bars, and the funds are for the average person. We can accommodate both cases.
All right. Well, hey, Nick, thanks so much for being on and giving us your latest interpretations of what's going on in these markets, because, man, that's the one thing that you've been sending in is questions like, why is the market behaving the way it is? It looks like it's behaving irrationally, and what are you supposed to do? And I think you've cleared that up really well. So, Nick, we will talk to you again soon. Thanks for being on FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. To replay this interview, to go see the latest breaking financial news around the world, it's FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. Don't forget PrepareWise.com. Get the food. Use the discount code LUTZ, L-U-T-Z. Nick, we will talk to you again soon. Be well.
Okay, my pleasure, Gary.